Joining us now is Rob
Cain
Bluey.
Country.
He's the
Don't forget
president
to hit
and
like or
executive
subscribe
editor
for the hottest
of the
takes in
Daily
news,
Signal. What's up,
politics,
Rob?
sports, and culture.
Well, I'm doing well today. We're working 6 days a week over here at the Daily Signal. I'll tell you that. 7 some weeks.
Oh, you might need to check your productivity, man. You might be getting a diminishing return. Might consider the 4-day work schedule. Let's start, Rob, together with Cracker Barrel. Breaking news, Cracker Barrel is going back to its logo featuring, I forget the guy's name, old man sitting next to a barrel.
Uncle Herschel.
Herschel. Otis. I was going with Otis. It's one of Herschel, Otis. Like, what is the old country white man name? You know, Herschel is definitely up there. They're bringing Herschel back. And this is after President Donald Trump posted this on Truth Social. Cracker Barrel should go back to its old logo, admit a mistake based on customer response, the ultimate poll, and manage the company better than ever before. They got $1 billion worth of free publicity if they play their cards right. Very tricky to do, but a great opportunity. Have a major news conference today. Make Cracker Barrel a winner again. That's what Donald Trump posted on Truth Social. It wasn't long after that we got this from Cracker Barrel. They posted, "We thank our guests for sharing your voices and love for Cracker Barrel. We said we would listen, and we have. Our new logo is going away, and our old time will remain. At Cracker Barrel, it's always been and always will be about serving up delicious food, warm welcomes, and the kind of country hospitality that feels like family. As a proud American institution, our 70,000 hardworking employees look forward to welcoming you to our tables soon." So Cracker Barrel bending, Rob, giving in, going away from the redesign. What do you think?
Will, apparently there was also a call between Cracker Barrel executives and the White House sometime yesterday. So all of this is quite intriguing. It's a fascinating story to watch, particularly because you have the president weigh in and then immediately Cracker Barrel decides to make this change after days of coming under attack from not just conservatives and people who maybe share the MAGA perspective on the world, but there were a fair number of Democrats and liberals who didn't like that logo either. So I think that they were obviously feeling the heat across the board. Maybe they took a look at some of their sales in stores and saw that there was not just a drop in the stock price, but maybe a drop in traffic. And that's going to have a detrimental impact on any type of business. Trump got this exactly right, though. The amount of publicity that they've been able to generate over the past week could do wonders for any business. And so, you know, as it goes, maybe they'll be able to reap some rewards from this controversy.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty negative publicity. I don't know how they can spin that into positive publicity. Meanwhile, CNN characterizes it like this. Cracker Barrel returned to its old logo after days of intense right-wing backlash. You think that's accurate? Is it right-wing backlash, Rob?
It was obviously, I think, spurred on by a lot of conservatives who were frustrated with a well-known brand abandoning what many saw as a traditional American experience. They probably on road trips or just in their neighborhood and home community decided that they would want to go to a Cracker Barrel after church on Sunday, or, if they were heading back home like I did. I stopped at a Cracker Barrel on my way to upstate New York, where I'm from, a couple times in July, Will. So, I think a lot of people enjoy that experience and what Cracker Barrel has to offer. By changing the logo, by redesigning the stores. We also heard from some former employees who said that they went all in on DEI and other woke policies. I think a combination of those things probably amplified the voices of conservatives, yet I don't think it was limited exclusively to conservatives. I don't think you necessarily have to be a conservative to like Cracker Barrel, and I think probably Cracker Barrel was feeling the pressure from across the political spectrum, which is why it ultimately caved in.
Yeah, we saw a post from Democrats saying we don't like the rebrand either. So I don't think it was just right-wing backlash. It was customer response. That being said, we've talked about it on the show. What drove Cracker Barrel to do this? And there's a couple of different options. There's been good reporting on the fact that in the 1990s, Cracker Barrel, I think it was the 1990s, maybe the early 2000s, had one of the worst scores ever given by the Human Rights
campaign.
Not the Human Rights Campaign. Is it campaign or coalition? Those are two different things. But the one that does these corporate index scores that goes in and looks like, what's your diversity quota like? What's your gender equity program? What's your LGBTQIA representation? On and on and on. It's like so many different things. And they give you a score. And Cracker Barrel got like a 6. It was really bad. And why that's important is that campaign has really affected corporate America in terms of their ability to conduct business. If you get a bad score, I think it impacts your ability to even get corporate loans, to engender new business. So Cracker Barrel pivoted strongly. They're like, we got to get better at this. We got to get a better score. And they made a ton of changes, including maybe not, we don't know directly why this lady became CEO, but we do know it's part of a trend of them trying to appeal to a constituency that doesn't necessarily reflect the sentiment of their consumers. It could also just be that this is part of a bland corporate redesign that everybody seems to be going through, where everything in America looks the same, sounds the same, tastes the same. Every logo, every interior design, every piece of architecture in America is turning into the same. But I don't think that would offend consumers, Rob, quite as much as the idea that this was intentional. It feels intentional, like we are leaving behind our roots. We are leaving behind who we are. This is a rebrand. We're more modern. We're less old-timey. We're less traditional. We're more progressive. And I think that intentionality is what offended people so much. It felt like a rejection not just of thing that people loved, but of who people are. Is that right wing? I don't know. I think it's cultural. I think it appealed to a consumer base that had a certain identity, and this was an intentional departure from that identity.
That's absolutely right. I mean, I don't think you have to be a Republican or a Democrat, a liberal or conservative to enjoy a meal at Cracker Barrel. You could be any one of those things. I think that the way that Cracker Barrel approached this, then the way that the CEO introduced not only the logo change, but the remodeling of the stores was one that was quite offensive to Americans who believe in those traditional values that you just spoke about. And they saw it as another challenge yet on a long list of companies that have been pressured by the Human Rights Campaign. Look, there are groups that exist to enact their agenda and impose it upon the will of these companies. And you've seen pushback, by the way, on the right when it comes to this. The Alliance Defending Freedom now has its own scorecard, which it's using to judge other topics beyond what HRC is doing. And so I'm glad to see the conservatives are pushing back on this. And I don't think that they stand alone in this. I think that any American who wants to have comfort food, enjoy the hospitality of a restaurant like Cracker Barrel doesn't necessarily want to see it changed in the dramatic fashion that the CEO was proposing. And certainly the customer spoke out and she heard it loud and clear.
All right, then there's this headline from the New York Times. Donald Trump's big gay government. On the town, the A-gays of Washington, who have never been happier to be out, proud, and Republican. In the article, Rob, it reads as follows. The most powerful out gay man in the Trump administration is Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent. Other A-gays include Tony Fabrizio, the president's longtime pollster, Trent Morse, a departing deputy assistant to the president, Rick Grinnell, who was put in charge of the Kennedy Center, and Jacob Hellberg, an undersecretary of state. They're overwhelmingly white, tend to have a certain look. Close-cropped haircuts, window-pane suits, golf shorts. They're not the type to be telling anyone their pronouns or using the word queer. And they aren't the least bit offended that the leader of their party continues to stoke a moral panic about transgender people. They're gay, but they're still Republicans. This is an incredible article, Rob, from the New York Times.
There's so much to talk about here, Will. I mean, first of all, it comes as no surprise to me or you or any of your viewers that the New York Times is obsessed with identity politics. And this is a classic case of the New York Times having to focus on that particular aspect where Donald Trump and probably others in his administration are not focused on this as Joe Biden was so obsessively focused on it in his administration. And yet the New York Times will, of course, write an article about it and expose all these people who would probably just prefer to have their credentials be on what they accomplish, not necessarily their sexual preferences. And so I'd say that that, at the top level, this is to be expected from the media. When it comes to Donald Trump specifically, I mean, you can go all the way back to The Apprentice and his business relationships. I mean, he has for years expressed an openness to people regardless of their sexual identity. So I don't think it necessarily should come as a surprise to anybody that likes Donald Trump or supports his agenda that he would welcome in people who are talented. And obviously somebody like a Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has been able to do remarkable things. And yet, I guess the New York Times is trying to stoke outrage among MAGA and conservatives who may want to see this as a negative on Donald Trump, when I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Oh, I don't know if that's the goal of the New York Times. I think it's to question the authenticity of the identity of these gay Republicans. To your point about Donald Trump's history, like, one of his early influences was Roy Cohn, the famed lawyer in New York City who was gay and ultimately died of AIDS. He's had a long history of being open to people regardless of their sexual identity. And I think, well, first of all, their characterization, they're overwhelmingly white, tend to have a certain look. Close cropped haircuts, window pane suits, golf shorts. Well, yesterday on the Will Cain Show on the Fox News Channel, I had another gay Republican on, Scott Pressler. Scott Pressler, many people would know, is very powerful, very effective activist in registering voters across the country during multiple elections. And here, just take a look quickly at this clip at Scott Pressler.
But hear me loudly and clearly, despite the Democrats having no message, little money, and the youth is coming over to the right, Democrats can still win. And so Republicans must vote in every single election.
Scott Pressler there, long flowing hair, well down past his shoulders. I'm not sure he fits the stereotype they're making of these gay Republicans.
No, he doesn't. And I've seen others react on X and other social media platforms today who may be black, gay Republican supporters of Donald Trump who don't fit that stereotype either. And that just goes to show that, again, I think the New York Times is trying to, in this particular case, as you put it, say that they don't necessarily, like, how can you be a gay Republican and support a conservative agenda? And I think that what you see in terms of reading the article.
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And what you see in the article is, regardless of whether you're working at the Treasury Department or the Energy Department, there are certain policy areas where these individuals have a high level of expertise, and Donald Trump is looking for competent people to serve in his government to serve the American people to the best of their ability, regardless of those personal questions and who they may like.
This is the New York Times version of Joe Biden saying, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. They're saying whatever it is to be gay actually isn't about your sexual preference, but it's about a holistic identity that includes you having a certain set of political opinions, which, by the way, they suggest includes all these trans issues. Like, you're not gay unless you're so obviously pro-trans. And by the way, this isn't just my projection. Here's one of the Obama bros, John Lovett, Pod Save America, worked for Barack Obama. He tweeted back at Rick Grinnell talking about the redesign of the Oval Office. So we're talking about interior design here, by the way. And Lovett says, 60 years ago, former Army astronomer Frank Kameny, fired for being gay, led a protest outside the White House on behalf of gays, gay veterans, and federal employees. You are in the room because of activists and protesters like him, and you insult the memory when you, a gay man, pretend this isn't tacky as F. Marsha threw a brick for you. Tell the truth. So by the way, okay, so Obama bro is saying that you liking the interior design of the Oval Office is a violation of the identity of being gay.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to shame them. Rick Grinnell, Scott Bessent, others, who.
By the way,
is
John
gay.
Lovett gay? Is he gay? John Lovett?
I don't know.
Can we?
See,
Would it be rich
though
for a straight man? To be criticizing a gay man on whether or not his taste in interior design is sufficiently gay? Like, I hope he's gay, John Lovett, because that doesn't feel like a. He's gay. I'm getting a thumbs up. You just Googled it. John Lovett's gay.
Yes, he was actually with Ronan Farrow.
Really?
Yeah.
Boyfriend with Ronan Farrow.
Partners, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's a gay man attacking another gay man for his interior design tastes. Okay. I think you were about to say this, Rob. I didn't know. Well, you didn't know. I don't care.
I don't care, right? Exactly. Well, that's the point. That's the point here, and that's why when I think we experienced 4 years of first, the first, black lesbian press secretary. I mean, you could go down the list of all the firsts that Joe Biden was so proud of doing, and I think the American people got tired of it. And they're like, no, we just want competent people to run our government. We don't want you to check a box for every identity group that you're trying to satisfy here.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing less free than the libertine freedom of an identity that, is an aggrieved minority, which means you've got to have all these opinions. You can't be an individual. You got to sign up for it. You get the whole Cracker Jack box, buddy. Okay? You're gay. Let me tell you what you got to think about interior design, your politics, or you're not gay. You're black. You better vote Democrat or you're a sellout. It's nothing more constricting than the left's imposition of cultural issues, political issues on their own constituency, their own championed minorities.
Yeah, it's something that I would expect that you're going to continue to see over the course of the next 3.5 years. And there's a reason for it. Donald Trump has made inroads with his agenda because it's common sense and it appeals to a broad swath of Americans, regardless of what your identity is. That's why you saw him cut into those groups that traditionally have supported Democrats overwhelmingly. And I think that there's a panic on the left that he's been able to do this, not just, and with young people in particular, I mean, which is probably the most frightening thing if you have a group of Gen Zers who are going to be lifetime Republicans or conservatives. And so they're in this mode right now where they're trying to drive a wedge between Trump and those different groups. And I don't think they'll be successful because I think Trump ultimately at the end of the day knows that reducing crime in big cities is going to be appealing to the people who live there. Reducing immigration in this country and securing the border is going to be appealing to people, and making sure that he brings down the cost of living and they have a strong personal finances is ultimately what they're going to judge his success or failure on.
So I was just looking through my notes, hoping I had this clip. I don't have this clip. It was a fascinating moment the other night on the Ingraham angle on Fox News, and it was Laura Ingraham versus Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and it's about the proposal for the Trump administration to allow 600,000 Chinese students to come to the United States and go to American colleges. It's a fascinating debate where Laura pushed Lutnick on how is this America first? How is it America first to ensure that there will continue to be 600,000 Chinese students at American universities? His response, Rob, was basically economic, that Donald Trump is a businessman. And without those 600,000 Chinese students, a lot of American colleges just simply wouldn't be able to pay the bills. They'd go under. Donald Trump, by the way, doubled down on this in his cabinet meeting yesterday, that he thinks it's only right. I did see someone say, like the burning of the American flag or taking an equity position in Intel, this is Donald Trump once again trapping people into a headline where the actual issue is deeper and forces them to take some unpopular positions. The theory is he's highlighting we already have 600,000 Chinese students coming in, and he's going to continue that, I believe. I don't know if I buy that's 3D chess on this one. I share Laura Ingram's, how does this serve America first to continue to bring in and educate 600,000 Chinese students?
Yeah, I think first of all, there's a question over the numbers because the data that I saw was about half that, about 300,000. Maybe there's a way that maybe there's some other formula that Trump's using to get to the 600,000. I was glad to see that Laura pushed him on it and asked those tough questions because you saw the response and you articulated it, that he said about 15% of the colleges and universities might have to close down were they were to lose that tuition revenue, because obviously if you're a foreign student coming to the United States, you're paying full tuition. You're not getting student aid and other discounts, scholarships. And Marjorie Taylor Greene and others said, well, maybe those 15% of colleges should shut down if they're relying on the CCP for their funding. But there's another issue here, Will, that I think goes to the heart of what Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others have talked about, and that's the threat of the CCP. We know that some of these students have come to the United States with the sole intention of spying on us and delivering secrets back to the Chinese government to help them steal intellectual property and really gain a competitive edge, whether it be economically or militarily, against the United States. And so you've had a strong contingent of conservative groups say that not only does the Trump administration need to do a better job of vetting who these students are to make sure that we're not letting in spies, but also to be more restrictive. And so Trump is taking a position here that is a bit at odds with his base and constituents. Ultimately, I don't know. Last week, he floated the idea of potentially having boots on the ground in Ukraine, and he immediately walked that back, right? So I don't know what Trump's trying to do ultimately, but he is a master of so many of these issues, and he's figured out a way to put Democrats in a box, as you noted, on crime and flag burning. So maybe he's trying to do that here.
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate level of deference because these issues have played out in so many favorable ways for him, and not what in not just the left, the right thinks they are. The flag burning thing was worthy of deeper analysis, which we did yesterday, and it shows it's not some big violation of the First Amendment. He's not criminalizing burning the American flag unless it is associated with an existing other crime like disorderly conduct or public burning. But I don't know on this one. The 600,000 Chinese students, I don't see the trap. I don't see the rhetorical game or box that he's putting his opponents into. It doesn't look like, to me, it's America first.
Or is it an olive branch to
Vanity Fair,
President Xi? I don't know, to try to carry on the conversation about tariffs and the economic situation with China. I don't know ultimately what chess game he's playing here.
Right. That's true. That's true. It's part of negotiations with China. That's a big chip to lay on the table, I feel like. We'll see if that's where it lands. And then finally, Rob, I wanted to go over this with you. Vanity Fair, the magazine, employees are lashing out over the proposed cover of Vanity Fair, which would be Melania Trump. Here's a quote. I think this quote is to the New York Post. "I will walk out of the mother effing door, and half my staff will follow me. We are not going to normalize this despot and his wife. We're just not going to do it. We're going to stand for what's right. If I have to work bagging groceries at Trader Joe's, I'll do it. If they put Melania on the cover, half the editorial staff will walk out. I guarantee it." Look at your face, Rob. I mean, this... I'm going to admit to you something, Rob. I thought after Donald Trump was elected president that the left would move on from TDS. I really did, because I thought there would be a certain level of resignation and fatigue. They would realize they would be tired after, what are we looking at, 10 years of this insanity? And they would have to start thinking about the future, a future which doesn't include Donald Trump. They would have to start focusing on who their person will be and who will they be running against. Will it be Marco Rubio or J.D. Vance? I was wrong. There is no end to the appetite for the insanity of Trump derangement syndrome. Obviously, here illustrated as imported onto Melania Trump. And you know what it makes me think, Rob? It's not going to go away even when he's not president. It may continue to define into the future Democrats.
Probably will. That's for sure. I don't see it going away post presidency. We'll be thankful that you're in Texas and not living in a bubble like New York or Washington, D.C., where you're surrounded by people who have TDS and can't get over it. There's no doubt in my mind that what you're seeing at Vanity Fair is something that happened throughout the 4 years of his first term. They refused to put Melania Trump on any of those magazine covers, despite putting Michelle Obama and other first ladies on them multiple times during their tenure in the White House. I mean, there's no doubt that there was a double standard applied during the first term, and you're seeing the same thing happen this time around. Now, I think that they could probably pick up millions of new subscribers, or at least people to buy that particular issue of the magazine. So from a business or capitalism sense, you would think, why not do this? Because it's opening an opportunity to a whole new market that would love to own a copy of a magazine with Melania on the cover. And instead, the staff seems to be in a full-on revolt, panic that this may happen. And it just goes to show how out of touch they are with the rest of this country.
Yeah, I mean, she's even setting aside the potential business. I don't know if more people would buy it, but she's a two-time first lady. She's relatively, by the way, apolitical. Most of the causes she champions have to do with children. You know, she shows up in Kerrville, Texas after the floods. She's writing an open letter to Vladimir Putin about the children of Ukraine. And this is their reaction. As you point out, Michelle Obama, over 2 terms, was on Vogue's cover 3 times in 2 terms. And they just can't stomach. I mean, the line is, we will not normalize this despot and his wife. This is what we get. We get, for sure, at least 4 years of Trump derangement syndrome. And now my new prediction is several years after. It's going to go on for a while. You just can't be this crazy and come back to reality. That's the mistake I made. Oh, you come back. Nope. I don't know. Does anybody come back from crazy? Maybe without institutionalization? That's scary. We got a big percentage of the population that might be eligible for institutionalization. Hey, it's Will Cain Country. Don't forget to hit like or subscribe for the hottest takes in news, politics, sports, and culture.